Well, today on the Finding Traction podcast, I'm excited to announce that Andrew J. Bauman has agreed to let me interview him. And all of my questions. So here you go. Today's interview with Andrew Bauman.
Guys ready?
When it comes to porn, are you stuck, spinning out, or slipping backwards in your life? If so, then welcome to the Finding Traction podcast, a show dedicated to those who are looking to gain recovery momentum away from porn and toward the life and relationships they have always hoped for. Now, here's your host, Vern Tomke.
Well, today I am honored to have Andrew J. Bauman on the podcast, Finding Traction podcast. And Andrew, I first heard you on a Michael John Cusick or John Michael Cusick, I've got them mixed up, interview. And then I ordered your two books and it totally messed me up.
Yeah.
So thank you. It's great to have you on the show, Andrew.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. Excited for this conversation.
Yeah, the two books that I've ordered some of your other material as well on the Prodigal Son, but you have a couple books that I've been reading. Number one was The Psychology of Porn,
Yes.
and the second one was The Sexually Healthy Man.
Yes.
And they're messing me up. We'll talk a little bit about that down the road.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to hear more.
Well, just tell me, Andrew, a little bit, why would you get involved? I know you're doing mostly private practice right now in terms of therapy, but why would you be attracted to such a messy area of sexuality and sexual addictions? Like, what in your story makes this such an important thing for you?
Yeah, twofold. One, because my father was a pastor. And he also was a closet addict for 25 years.
Okay.
And betrayed my mom, lived a lie, suffered immense self-hatred because of it. And so I grew up in that. And then, so that being kind of my foundation, then teenage years, no one's talking about what's going on, why my family's just disintegrating before my eyes. Then I find pornography myself to soothe my own wounds, to begin to try to find comfort, and slowly begin to destroy my own life with pornography and get in my own addiction as I'm pursuing professional ministry, as I'm a pastor. So those are kind of my introductions to this world, to this pornography. And so I was addicted to porn for about 13 years.
Right.
And then involved in ministry for quite a few years as well, and just realizing more and more the dichotomy that I was living, the split life that I was living, that I could no longer live this way and be healthy myself. And so that kind of began my journey some 15 years ago, beginning to bring those two worlds together and trying to become an authentic man.
Wow, boy, you reading my mail, I wish that I could say it was only 10, 15, 20 years of that split lifestyle. It took me way more years than that in trying to navigate through ministry and my own brokenness. And you raised, obviously you talk a little bit about this phrase, the pornographic style of relating. And I almost call myself, I have been a student of porn for 30 plus years. And I was a very good student. I was a straight A student when it came to the subject of porn.
Right.
And it has really informed me about how I view women and the world around me. And you really talk a lot about that phrase. And I don't know if it was an original or you picked it up somewhere, but would you describe, I tried to do a whole podcast, but I probably butchered it completely. What do you mean by some of the basic concepts that come into that?
And so what I mean by a pornographic style of relating is this: when porn becomes your mentor, when porn becomes your guide. For me, growing up in the conservative Christian church, my parents didn't tell me anything about sex. Nothing was talked about. It was all shame-based. It was all, the True Love Waits movement was the big purity movement that I grew up in, in the Southern Baptist culture in the South. And so all of a sudden I have no tools to engage sexuality, but then pornography begins to become a thing as the internet becomes a thing in my own story. And so then porn begins to teach me, oh, this is what it is. It fills in the gaps of my questions, right? It fills in the gaps. And yet it creates another, obviously, a toxic view. It creates a degrading view of women as objects, women here to serve me and my pleasure. So then as I move from adolescence to adulthood, I begin to watch myself be able to have real relationships. I notice myself jumping from girl to girl to girl, similar to click, 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 next image, searching to see who would give me my fix, right? Who could, in a sense, mend my wounds. And so I began to realize my style of relating is exactly how I related to porn. Hence developing these categories of a pornographic style of relating and realizing, man, if I could have had any type of language around this would have saved me, from over a decade of heartache.
Yeah, it really is a set of glasses, isn't it, that we begin to put on, and we're not even aware that we've been given a set of glasses.
Right.
And you brought that out in terms of this idea of being sexually healthy. I think your whole idea is to become sexually healthy would be, first of all, to recognize that we've been given a false set of glasses.
Yes.
Maybe I'll just throw that in as well. What is a sexually healthy man? That's the whole name of one of your books. If you were going to sum that up, what would that look like?
Yeah. I mean, you got 10 hours to talk about it.
By the way, on your website, which I'm going to ask about at the end, you have a great summary of that. So we'll let you plug that at the end.
Exactly. And so, yeah, I mean, there's so much to that, right? What is a sexually healthy man? And I can just do a few of the bullet points, right?
Yeah.
One of them is presence rather than distance, right? Emotional presence. What does it mean to be present with your partner? Do you hold their face during intimacy? Another example of healthy sexuality versus non-healthy. What is your relationship with authentic truth, like being authentic versus secrets, a hidden life? You cannot be sexually healthy if you have secrets. So being fully authentic, fully true is another one. Being in community versus isolation. Are you known? Do people know who you are? And not just authentic not just being known in like, oh, here's my testimony. I mean, being bloody. Like your full vulnerability, where you're terrified of being known. That's what I'm talking about. We used to have these accountability groups where we just, if we masturbated, we would have to throw $5 into the pot. We called it the jackpot. It's like, we try? We were in a sense trying to be known. And yet it was more about modifying our behaviors rather than knowing each other's woundedness. And all unwanted sexual behaviors comes from deep wounds. We sexualize our wounds in an effort to make sense of our wounds. And so will you know your woundedness? Will you share those wounds with others? And so, yeah, there's a lot of them. Honor versus objectify. Do you honor beauty rather than objectify it? I could go on for a while.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because it's really having a full view of the reality of our lives. I was listening to a podcast this morning, Michael Cusick's one, and he was memorializing Larry Crabb. Yes. And they quoted Scott Peck that was like saying, mental health is the ability, I'm going to butcher the saying, to fully understand and deal with reality.
Yes.
It was such a great phrase. And yes. The lack of mental health or sexual health would be the dissonance between us and what is truly real in our lives.
Yes, exactly. The way I like to say it is like living in truth, like God is truth. So the more we live in truth, the more we know God, right? And so living authentically is the kryptonite for addiction. Because I cannot live authentically and masturbate to women on the screen, because then I have to actually say what I'm doing. I'm participating in the abuse of women. I'm participating in the exploitation of women, violence against women, sex trafficking. I have to tell myself that. Well, then I'm not going to be able to achieve orgasm, right? So I have to lie to myself. I have to separate myself from what I do. I have to basically become split. And that's where so much of our problem is with unwanted sexual behavior.
Yeah, it was interesting. You in your books, you probably brought that out more than I've seen, the connection between the fancy word is misogyny. And I just did a quick definition. If you're not familiar with listeners, the term is a dislike of, contempt for, or ingrained prejudice against women.
Yes.
And you talked about how in a pornographic style of relating, that just becomes so embedded. And I know when I first listened to that, I pushed back on that because I'm going, no, you don't get it, Andrew. I love women. I love everything I love the way they look, And so I was really resistant to the idea that I was misogynistic. So, like, tell me why you really are so firm on that linkage between,
yeah, because, and I wrote about it in The Psychology of Porn, an essay, I love women and I hate women, right? My ambivalence with femininity. We have to name the both and. Of course, I love women, but I also hate them because they have so much power over me, right? I've given them power to define me. So I hate that. And yet I need that to affirm my insecurity. Right. So that's the dance. So we can't just name our love. We have to also name our hatred, and also what that pornographic idea, that pornographic style of relating helped lead us to. Women are less than. Like, I am going to use them to feel better about myself, thus creating this patriarchal view of women. Like, we have to name that as we step into sexual health and healthy relationship with those we truly love.
Yeah, you told the story in your book about how someone says, I don't know if this, it's funny. I had almost exactly the same comment about my wife, who is this amazingly gifted person. And the comment was, are you sure that you want to marry this gal? Because she's really strong and she's gifted. And aren't you looking for more of a helpmate? And what that really is saying, I think, what you were trying to is, don't you need somebody who will stand further behind you to make you look, you look better?
And why do we, right? And I say in the book, why do we have to be small as men? Are we that insecure that our wives can't fully live in their glory because somehow she's a threat to my glory? Right. And it's just like, no, my wife is a powerful woman. She has written many books. She's a dynamite, and her dynamite helps me become more of a dynamite myself. And so we make a very powerful, potent team. And that's actually, God knew better what I actually needed, because I have a strong personality. I'm an 8 on the Enneagram. I'm a challenger. I like to take stuff on. I could not have a woman that I could dominate. I needed somebody that I could face, that could call me out when I'm full of it. I needed that.
Yeah, I know a little bit about the Enneagram. I'm a 9, but you 8s drive me nuts because you're always pushing me to do things. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, let me share one thing that I'm really wrestling with right now that your book has brought out. And I'm sure I may need to come down to Seattle. I'm about 3 hours north of you for some counseling here. But I feel like I have, in the last 3 or 4 years, have developed a healthier response to porn.
Yeah.
I've got a sense of freedom. I've got a sense of connection. But then I realized that you talk a lot about beauty.
Yes.
And I realized, oh my goodness, I am still at times find myself a consumer of beauty.
Yes.
I look at I'm not sure if they're going to get back to my wife, but I look at a couple newscasters on television. I mean, this is just regular network news. I just their hair, their face, their lips, their eyes, their beauty, and I just take it in and drink it in. And then you kind of call that out and say, that's also being a consumer. And I'm realizing I still have some work to do. And I mean, you share a little story in one of your counseling sessions about you being brought face to face with that yourself. So can you help me a little bit here as to what I'm wrestling with?
Yeah. So that's the kind of that next level, right? After you have stopped using pornography, right? Then there's different levels of healing. And so as I've been trying to, 12 years sober for myself, trying to step into what these levels are. And so kind of that next level that you're describing is our relationship to beauty. it doesn't matter if a woman is fully clothed. You could still use her as porn, right? Like it doesn't matter. It's not about naked or not.
Okay, well, just stop there. I'm not okay. Just so I want to clarify to the listeners here. I'm not seeing them as naked. I'm not
Sure.
I'm not even sexualizing them in the traditional porn way. So okay, good. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Right. And I'm not saying you are. I'm saying we have developed, all of those who have a history of pornography. We have developed this way of being where we consume, where we take, right? And so even if they're fully clothed, right, even if it's just a news anchor, there's this sense where our mindset is where we devour beauty rather than honor beauty. And so how do we change our relationship to beauty? How do we begin to look at it? Because we are meant for beauty. I truly believe God created us to enjoy beauty. So the problem is not that you are enjoying beauty. It's how do you enjoy it, right? And so when Mount Rainier is out in Seattle, right, it towers over the city. There's an awe to her beauty.
Yeah.
That's very different than the objectification view of women. And so, there's this whole idea that many of us have grown up with about kind of bouncing your eyes, every man's battle. And it's like, I really push back on that idea because I don't think that actually creates a changed relationship with beauty. It's more just about behavior management, sin management. Let's not run from beauty. Let's actually engage it in a healthy way. Let's actually engage. Why do we want to consume beauty? What are you looking for? What answers are you looking for within yourself that this beautiful woman's going to answer? Those are the questions I'm intrigued by.
Yeah. And I guess the word that came to my mind is, what deficit is there in my heart and my spirit and my soul that I need to pour this person into to bring me up to that level?
Exactly. And so there's this idea of even your history of idolatry, and when I say I just mean all of us who have had the history of porn use. We have created this God, right? The porn or the woman has replaced God. And so in a sense, it's almost like idol worship. And so we have to look at our idols. And so when beauty becomes an idol, how do we face this idol in our lives? How do we take beauty off? Like, it's not going to answer the questions that I'm actually longing for, which is, am I a man? Am I good enough? Am I strong? Am I this? And I remember when I was using women, like, those were the questions I would bring to them. And I would use them and I would feel good about myself for a moment. And then when I was done using them, I would have to find another woman to get that same answer met, because it actually never fully satisfied. Just like any false gods, any addiction, it never fully satisfies.
Well, you have a great quote in I forget which book, and you say, a beautiful woman is a poor substitute for God.
Yes.
And that's such a great sum of that. Well, I'm going to have to work on that. I'm going to have to wrestle with that, because I do find that as a bit of a next level for me, that I'm really starting to, having got some distance from more the overt porn use.
Exactly.
Then it's like, okay, what are still the areas that I find myself pulled?
And that's where we have integrity, right? Of those of us who've started have freedom from that. It's like, there's stages of that where it's like, actually, it can kind of be easy to stop looking at naked women on the internet. What about your fantasy life? Well, then that's that next level of, okay, taking responsibility for your own thoughts, your own internal thoughts, how you engage women. And then the next step, how do you engage beauty? And all this is pushing you towards having a healthy relationship with image bearers of God, right? Because having a healthy relationship with a woman is having a healthy relationship with God.
Is that maybe what, and I've never talked to John Eldridge. Is that a little bit, I don't know if you're familiar with him, what he's trying to get at when he's talking about there's a beautiful daughter of Eve, and yes. I think he's trying to get at some of that in terms of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Well, like I say, I've got some more work to do, Andrew, and tell me a little bit about kind of what you're doing in the Seattle area. And
so we actually have both East Coast, West Coast, currently on the East Coast in North Carolina, and then come in Seattle as well. So we do both coasts. We run the Christian Counseling Center for sexual health and trauma. And so my wife and I work with couples, do intensives. Mostly we don't do kind of weekly therapy anymore, but we do intensives, folks all around the world, and just love what we get to do. It's such an honor to work with, I work with men with unwanted sexual behaviors and kind of the fallout of that. And so that's all we do.
You do some work. I've noticed that near the end of the Psychology of Porn book, you do some work about how to help couples regain like real intimacy in sexuality, where previous just been maybe eroticized, but now I found that interesting in terms of helping couples really.
Yeah. So much of the work is that men who have been addicted, they become disembodied. And so what I find with all these men that I work with and I lead a bunch of men's groups, what we do is we focus on how do we rebuild intimacy? How do we become embodied with ourselves? So we do intimacy exercises. We do these works. And then, that works in couples as well. We do eye to eye contact. We're doing really intimate exercises with each other in real time to try to become embodied once again. So it's almost like a recalibrating, retraining your brain. How do you have healthy intimacy again? And then, we're doing that in real time, either with the partner or in groups to learn how to do it again.
And your website, Andrew, how do people connect with you?
Yeah. So you can find us at www.christiancc.org, and that's christiancc.org, or my personal website where I do have a bunch of blogs, andrewjbauman.com.
Okay. And you can also there's a PDF on there. I'll try to maybe put it in the show notes as well, where you kind of do a pictorial picture of the healthy versus the unhealthy sexual man.
You can find all that on my website. You can also take the survey on my website. Am I a sexually healthy man, or is my partner a sexually healthy man? So that's on my website as well. If you want to kind of get if you want a humble pie.
Andrew, it's been an honor having you on the show. I know I've talked about your last couple episodes, and I probably butchered all your books. So I encourage people to unbutcher them by going and reading directly from what you said. So again, thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, no problem. Nice meeting you, and thanks for having me.
All right. Well, hopefully our borders open quick so we can connect. So, all right. All right. I'll close that out. But yeah, no, it's crazy with the closed borders, and it's really messed us up here. I got family in Bellingham and Idaho, and it's been hard. It's been hard.
I bet. Yes.
Have you been up in the area at all, Andrew?
I have a little bit. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely look forward to getting back. We'll head back to Seattle in July. So.
Okay. So do you kind of divide your time?
Yeah, I kind of go back and forth and whatnot. So this year, because of COVID, we decided to stay on the East Coast.
Okay. All right. Okay, buddy.
Well, all right. Nice meeting you. Thank you.
Hanging out with you. Thanks, Andrew. Bye-bye now.